Welcome back to Fitness Manifesto. I am one of your hosts, Kim, and joining me is
Justin. Welcome to this new show that we've started, which focuses on life, awesomeness, friendship, and fitness as a whole.
You can hear me good?
I can hear you good, unfortunately, yes.
Whatever, unfortunately.
Dude, how are you, Kim?
What?
How are you?
See, it comes into frame and then it's gone. I'm doing great. Justin, how are you?
Great. The reason it comes in and out is because your face gets in front of it. And so it recognizes your face, but not the color. So it will then pull everything together with it. So just be careful.
So then how should I do that?
You're doing great, Kim. I think you're still a little close, but you're perfect. How's the DuckTales treating you? For those that don't know, we made tea today and it's, I think the Queen's tea or something. And the best part about it is that she's drinking out of a DuckTales cup.
I am.
And Kim, today's a momentous day. We've got a new filmer helping us out and we're recording in person, which we haven't done in probably 3 to 4 weeks.
Oh my gosh, it has been so long, Justin. We are finally, I think everybody is healthy, right?
It's relative, right? I mean, on my side, there's always something going on. When you got 5 people living in a house, especially this time of year, there's always something going around, but knock on wood.
Right.
Again, like we're recording in my house today and I've got 2 kids randomly home because they had to go get their eyes dilated at the optometrist today, which was totally unexpected, but we're dealing with it.
Well, and it's always the odd things, right? It's always crazy weird, the things why they have to stay home for the most part anyway.
Kim, I think this is a great segue here and you set the conversation for today up beautifully right there. I want to dive into this.
Do.
Well, you're a magician. I mean, you are truly a magician at this. And so my family, as you know, my mom's side is from West Virginia. My dad is from Wisconsin. So I've got a little bit of Midwest and a lot of redneck white trash in my family. And I'll tell you right now that Kim started off today offline talking about something that I know my West Virginia relatives, because I do know that my grandmother, this happened once. I'm going to set this up here and then I want to hear your story. So one time I was at my grandma's house, okay? And she's born and bred. She's one of, I think, 9 or 10. Anyways, one day we're sitting at her house and she just goes, "Oh,
I don't know,"
and runs to the bathroom. And I'm like, "Grandma, what?" And she just like leaves. And my mom is like, "Don't worry about it." And I'm like, what just happened? She holds her mouth and goes like this. Anyways, her front was a bridge. And I don't really know how they work, but anyways, it like came undone, a bridge. So like her 2 front teeth like just fell out randomly and like the whole setup and everything inside there. And she comes back. I remember seeing her and I couldn't stop laughing. And I felt so bad because to see your grandma missing 2 front teeth, that you've never seen a person missing teeth. They've always had teeth. And she comes back and she's like, "Oh, grandpa," and she can't talk right, because she's missing her front teeth. Oh God, it made me laugh. And so part of what this conversation is going to be about is weird crap that happens to us that we don't like to talk about, but we all know it happens. Okay. And so I've told you a story very briefly here, and I'll give you some personal stuff after this. But Kim dropped a total bomb on us today that was so funny, and she brought it up so nonchalant. I can't wait to hear. Please tell us.
So, okay, I have what I call a snaggletooth. So with a snaggletooth, I had a filling in it. And well, it happened in Wyoming. And when we moved down here, I was eating something and it came out. The filling did. And I was like, "Oh, that's not supposed to happen that way." I have been putting it off for years. The dentist said, if it's not bothering you, it's fine. It's not rubbing on anything. It's not decaying. It was fine. Well, then I guess I set it up for failure and I was chewing on something and, well, a sliver of my tooth came out.
Now, hang on.
And so I was... Okay.
No, hang on. I was going to pause there for a second because I want to catch our audience up here for a second. She delivered it more dryly before because she was basically like, "Yeah, a piece of my tooth fell off." And I was like, "What? Your tooth?" Like, if it was me, I would have freaked out. I would have called the dentist, I don't care, midnight, and been like, "A piece of my tooth fell off. What the heck happened?" And you're just like, "I think I need to get that fixed." So this is so unbelievably awesome to me.
You are such a diva. I am not that person.
Hang on. Is that a diva thing to do? Hang on. I want to open this to our audience really quickly here. Please, as you're writing this, please reach out to us via social media on what your thoughts are. If a piece of your tooth falls off, are you being a diva wanting to go to the dentist right away? I'd love to hear.
When you say a piece of my tooth, it wasn't like a huge chunk. It was like a sliver. just kind of where that cavity was at. It didn't hurt.
But hang on, Kim, it's not the size of the sliver. It's a piece of your tooth came off. I don't care if it was like it felt like a grain of sand in there. I would still freak out. But you're like, a piece of my tooth fell off. It's okay. Things are going to be okay. You're much more stoic about this than I am. Please continue.
You're being just extremely dramatic about it all.
Continue, because I'm just blown away. I mean, it's your tooth, Kim. It's not like, okay, I get if you have dry skin, some skin sloughs off occasionally. You're like, okay,
but like I had already been dealing with this for years. I knew I was going to have to get it fixed eventually. And I brushed really good. I flossed. I did all that stuff. And so I knew eventually, and well, that eventually happened sooner than I wanted it to.
Well, hang on. I want to pause there for a second because I got to get our audience caught up on this too. You mean to tell me you knew at some point a piece of your tooth was going to fall off?
No. I knew I was going to have to get it replaced.
It was the inevitable. You knew this was going to happen. You're like, sorry, you can bleep that.
That's terrible, Justin.
I'm sorry. But what did your dentist say? Okay, so you went to your dentist today. You finally got in after 17 weeks. What happened?
Well, no, I went in. I knew I was going to have to get a crown. So I went in, a couple weeks ago, actually, and got it all numbed up. At least I didn't have to get a root canal. If I had to do a root canal, like I'm a big wuss when it comes to that. I don't like needles. I'm like, that's one thing I can be a sissy girl about is all that stuff. Okay, you've got something to say, of course.
Of course. I feel like I'm Kim now. I feel like I've got all the questions. So you mean to tell me you went in to get the crown, whatever they do for a crown. You went to get the crown on. Did they already know that it was bad, like at this stage of the game? Or when did the piece of tooth fall off? Before or after this?
Before this. That's why I went in to get a crown. And to do it, you have to do it in a couple different stages. So I went in there and they grind it all down and had to put a temporary crown. My gosh, Justin. Were you in the room when your wife gave birth to your children?
Yeah, I actually looked over. So she had a C-section each time. I looked over and watched the entire thing every time.
I don't know if I believe that. I think you were like on the ground.
No, everyone was blown away. Like I didn't grimace or anything. That to me is fascinating, but just I think because I can't relate, I can't give birth. So like it's not like freaky to me. But if I had someone grinding my teeth down, that would freak me out. Like it's just sound.
I don't like that type of stuff either, but I was all super numbed and they put a temporary in and then ordered the actual crown. So I went in today and my husband made fun of me because they did a gold crown because they said it's more durable and it'll last longer. And so
you've got bling in your mouth now?
My husband's like, all right, Nellie, how's it going?
You have officially crossed to a true Midwesterner. Next thing you're going to do, you're going to start collecting shoes, as like trophy pieces. That's your next evolution here. And then you're going to get
I am not a shoe. No, I'm not a shoe person.
Okay. All right. Well, you might be now. You're stepping up. Your game is getting bigger. You're stepping up. You're doing your thing. Hang on. So are you done now? Like your tooth is all fixed? Like you are done? You are... Well, high five to you, by the way.
I don't accept that high five. I just want you to know because you're being like a sissy girl right now.
Hang on, Kim, again. A piece of your tooth fell off. You had to get a crown. I don't feel like I'm the sissy here. I think I'm the one that's being rational. And you're more like, well, they're spare parts. How though you don't have spare teeth?
Well, that's why you go to the dentist. They can fix it.
But again, I think you went to a bad dentist because if I told my dentist I had a hole in my tooth and they were like, it's okay. Hey, at some point you need to get it fixed. But right now, don't worry about it. You have a hole in your tooth.
No. I didn't have a hole in my tooth at that time.
Hang on.
Until you're like blowing something up here that's not to be blown up. You're like making a bigger deal out of this than what it isn't. No. Pause. You pause. Thank you. Is that thunder?
It might be. Could be my stomach.
Okay. I know mine too. So I already had a snaggle tooth that needed fixed eventually, but there wasn't a hole in my tooth. It was fine. And then
hang on, just real quick, I want to make sure I'm tracking everything here because I thought originally you came down from Wyoming, you noticed that your tooth was bothering you, and I thought you said you had a hole in your tooth.
No, I had a filling that fell out.
Okay, see, you did have a hole in your tooth then.
Well, it was when I went to the dentist here, there was no decay. They're like, this is fine. There was nothing wrong with it, but with the filling coming out, and then of course with the piece of the tooth that came off, then
I am punch drunk with this. I can't handle it. I just can't. Because you realize all these things to me are like massive red flags. You're like, I'm going to wait another 8 years to take care of this just because, you know what? Hey, I want to lose a piece of my tooth. I want to see how far I can take this.
I wasn't even setting up for that. I just, honestly, I didn't want to pay for it. I was like, eh. And if they said it was fine, it wasn't decaying anymore, it was fine. So, well, I waited till I absolutely had to get it done.
So here's my point. I need to ask you offline because I definitely don't want to go to your dentist. If we go the same one, I'm switching.
I'm waiting for this point.
No, but Kim, first of all, I'm just glad you got it fixed. Does it feel good? I had to get one root canal when I was younger, and I'll tell you about that story because it fits well with this. And they had to like sand it down and everything. Did they have to do that with yours, or was yours like a perfect fit? They put it in and everything, you're done.
Oh my gosh, no, they even had to. They put the temporary in, but before that, like they had to order one that fit.
Did they do like a digital recreation of it, or they do like the old school? Because I remember when I did mine, they did that kind of like putty thing they put in there, get the feel. Okay. Is that what they did?
Yeah, I hate that stuff. That stuff is...
It's gross. So let me tell you about my pain so we can get off you because
pause.
Okay.
It never hurt ever because if it did, tooth pain is, my pain tolerance is extremely high. But if it was a tooth pain, that's a different type of pain. I would have gotten it fixed immediately, but it wasn't, it never hurt.
Okay, fair enough. Again, different strokes, different folks, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. So my story, I have to ask Mom, I don't remember if I was in North Dakota or South Dakota. We were at some monument and I'm 5 years old and I'm running to a drinking fountain and I turn around to look at my parents and then I turn back. And as I turn around, I run into a cement block and all of my front teeth go shooting through my gums out through my lip. So all of my front teeth now are all shooting out through they're just, you want to talk about a snaggle tooth. So I went to this dentist, like emergency dentist there in the middle of nowhere, whatever. They numbed it. They pulled all my teeth. So, I didn't have teeth for a while there. As they grew in, my left bicuspid at the top here, canine, I think, or whatever it is, came in and it was chiseled because as it went through the bone, it literally shattered the tooth. So,
wow.
Yeah. So they had to, I waited a long time, probably in my 20s, whatever. I had to get a crown for that one or a root canal because the tooth was going to die anyway. It was already shattered, basically. I do remember going through this, though. I don't have a lot of memories of it, but I do remember sitting in my dad's lap and my mom is just like, oh my God, there's blood everywhere. And at a 5-year-old, I'm like, I don't care. It hurts so much. But at the same time, I'm like trying to feel and I'm like, oh my God, those are my teeth. And I'm thinking it's cool. Looking back, I'm like, I've changed a lot in my old age. That's not cool to me. If that happened now, there's no point. I'd be like, this is kind of cool feeling. Like, this is awesome. Never would that happen. So,
oh my gosh, no.
Well, I'm not sure, Kim. A piece of your tooth.
No. The difference is you couldn't see mine. Like it wasn't front and center. If you look at me, you would have no idea. But you, on the other hand, if you smiled and you were missing these teeth, I would very much laugh at you.
Well, now tell me this, because I want to switch back here, but I got to hear one part that we missed on your story was your husband's response was what? Because this is amazing to me. You don't get more Wyoming than this. And I've never been to Wyoming, but I can tell you right now, this is what I picture a Wyoming person saying. Please continue.
I told him because he knew eventually that tooth was going to have to get fixed. And he knew I was in no hurry to do it because it wasn't bothering me. So it is what it is. So whenever it came out and I said, I'm going to have to get my tooth fixed. And he goes, why? And I said, because I'm holding a chunk of it in my hand. And he laughed. Oh my gosh. He thought that was so funny. He laughed at me. And actually, he was the one all over me to call the dentist. He kept, have you called the dentist? I'm like, no, but I will.
All right. I'm not going to take up any more of the time on this, but Kim, you're not selling the case on this at all. In fact, I'm so concerned about your health now, just as a whole, that your piece of your tooth falls off. You're like, hey, look, I'm gonna wait. It's not a big deal, guys. It's just a tooth.
Oh, no. I knew that I'd have to get it fixed like pretty quickly because, like I said, tooth pain is it's a completely different pain than a regular ouchie or whatever. So yeah.
All right. So I'll tell you one more story and then we'll go back to you on this one. So one of my favorites.
No, I don't want to talk about me anymore.
Tim, I can't thank you enough for sharing that story because I know our audience, this may be the most viewed episode we ever have because the controversy on this, because we live in Texas, of course, there's going to be some redneck here that's like, why'd you get fixed? And then, all the West Coast are going to be like, I can't believe you didn't go in immediately. How did you survive? What happened? Did you drink soy with that? Did you any natural oils that you can put on it? As everyone knows, I'm a big surfer, and so one time my brother and I were out surfing in California.
Nobody knows you're a big surfer.
I guess here they don't, but I should actually talk about it. I got a whole rack upstairs. Anyways, we were surfing in this place called Seal Beach, and it was a perfect day. And we had just gotten these brand new boards. They're handmade in Seal Beach, and I was surfing a 7.8, which is a 7 feet, 8 foot long one called a bullet. My brother had an 8 feet, 1 inch board. Beautiful, like this beautiful red board. It was a board I always wanted. Like his was so beautiful. Mine was great. But anyways, it was just too long to surf on. We go out to surf. We had caught like 5, 6 beautiful waves. And all of a sudden we catch this wave. We're riding it in together, going like this. And all of a sudden my brother just wipes out and his board goes flying in the air. It comes crashing over him, and he's way off in the distance. And I'm like still going, and I'm paddling, and I finally see him out there, and he's slumped over his board like this. And I'm like, Steve. He's like, ugh. I'm like, Steve. Ugh. I'm like, oh crap, the kid really hurt himself. So I'm paddling over to him, and as I get over to him, he has this hematoma on his head where the fin of the board hit him so hard it cracked the skin and it ruptured, and he had this hematoma, and every heartbeat kept growing. And I'm not exaggerating. It was at least an inch protruding from his head and probably 3 or 4 inches long. And with every heartbeat, it got darker and darker. And he's sitting there. He's like, I think I'm really hurt. I'm like, dude. He's like, he feels his head. He's like, oh, this can't be good. I'm like, yeah. And thank God the water's in the 50s there. So if it was hot water, he could really have, hurt himself. Anyways, this is how bad of a brother I am. Did I take him to the doctor? No. Did we do anything? No. I went out and surfed another 2 hours while he sat on the beach, passed out. He could have died from a concussion. To this day, he is so mad at me for this. So mad. I'm like, dude, you had to get my car keys. You could have gone.
You're like a terrible person. But as we say in our house, we joke with our kids all the time. You're looking a little red, a little shellfish.
Ooh, I like it. Hey, okay, here's a great dad joke I heard the other day, by the way. I'm going to segue here for a second. And I know that you'll love this. Did you know that diarrhea is hereditary?
Interesting that you
want to say, ask me why.
Why?
Well, because it runs in your genes.
Gross.
What my youngest son told me, I thought it was a great joke. He came home, he's like, Dad, I thought it was brilliant. So I had to share with you guys. All right, back to topic at hand.
Warm.
Kim, what else have you done that we may not have heard before, or someone in your family has done? Because you've got kids. There's got to be some sort of injury that you were like so terrified of, and yet they survive and they're totally fine. None?
I got to think about it. I mean, TJ got injured in a doctor's office before. Like there was a toy and he donked his head like right here in between his eyebrows, and they rushed him back and gave him stitches and took that toy away immediately.
Hang on. Again, I'm not sure these doctors you're going to are very good.
Oh no. My mom went with one of my best friends who she had cancer. My mom was going with her, and she kept TJ for me when he was little while we worked. So she had TJ. See, don't rush to conclusions.
She was by herself, and all of a sudden this poor kid, how old was he?
He was, oh my gosh, he was probably 3.
And that's going to be terrifying as a babysitter to be in the doctor's office, and all of a sudden you look over and you see this kid that you're supposed to be taking care of. And I mean, has anyone's ever cut their face? It bleeds profusely. Like it's not like even a small cut. It's not like a drip. It's like cascading blood.
Yes.
Oh my God. So what happened?
But she raised 3 kids. She was calm about it, as you should be. I mean, I don't think you would be. You would be like the opposite.
Actually, no. When crisis is like that, I'm actually so like I really am. Like those kind of things I'm really good at. I freak out over you didn't put your dishes away? Like, come on. That's the stupid stuff. But when it comes to like injuries, I sometimes laugh because they're so funny. Like one time my son was outside and we had a swing set back probably 3-4 years ago. Okay. And my oldest son was out and they did this thing where they would climb across the monkey bars together. And then they jump on this, like we had a rope swing thing that swung around. So he's trying to jump to this thing and Bailey's getting off of it. And it randomly, this is like one of those one in a probably a billion shot this ever happened. It flings off, like she drops it and it flings forward. As he looks over, it hits him right in the mouth and just starts spewing blood everywhere. And he comes running over to me, spewing blood. And I'm like, oh! And Kelly's out of town. This is like day one of like a 6-day trip. And I'm like, oh, great. Now she's never going to leave me alone with the kids ever. He's like 5, Bailey's 3. There's something like horrible here. Anyways, of course, tons of blood everywhere. I was very calm when it happened. And then I'm like, we don't need to go to the doctor. So I just looked at it. He stopped bleeding. I made him swish around some salt water. He was fine. Woke up the next day, just gigantic, like goose lips. I mean, just huge goose lips.
So it was his lips that were, he didn't knock any teeth or anything out?
He didn't knock any teeth. It looked like it hit him in the lip, but the gums bled. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, so it looked like he didn't hit the teeth directly. So it protected him. Thank God. Cause I mean, it was just plastic anyways. So the next day we're FaceTiming. I didn't call Kelly that night and we're talking to her and she's like, can I talk to Seth? I'm like, I don't think Seth is around. And all of a sudden you hear Mom. And I'm like, oh, dang it. He comes running over and Kelly's face was like, what happened? I'm like, and the best part was the first thing out of his mouth was Bailey. And thank God it wasn't me, so all of a sudden Dad's off the hook. It was great. Bailey was now the one in trouble.
He didn't blame you, huh? He didn't blame you.
No, he knew who caused the pain. Anyways, Kelly to this day is still just, traumatized. And every time before she leaves, although we don't have a swing set anymore, we have something more dangerous, which is a pool. And so every time before she goes out of town, she's like, they cannot swim by themselves. They have all these rules. I'm like, I know, I get it. But she does not trust me at all.
I mean, they'll just drown each other in the pool. Nothing bad will happen.
Well, that's exactly her thing. And I'm like, outside the United States, most countries have multiple kids because the survival rate is less. So I'm like, hey, look, if 2 make it to adulthood, that's 66%. That is not bad. Almost 67%. That is 2/3. That's something that I'm going to high five myself on. But we're aiming to get all 3 there. We're working.
Well, I'm glad that's what you're going for.
It's the little wins in life. You know that.
Hey, I have 1 more year with my oldest and then he's gone. He's going to college.
We hope.
Oh no, he's got it all planned out.
Now, if I remember right, is he going to A&M? Am I remembering that correct or no?
Oh no, I think he's wanting to go up to Wyoming. So we'll see. I don't know exactly what he's going to do or what his path is. We'll see.
All right. Well, good luck to him. And obviously, we'll definitely follow up on here. So any other tragedies like this that you've had either to you or to someone in your family that you can share with us today to bring some levity to the situation?
I'm sure there is. I mean, we've had to rush. Abigail's been taken by ambulance to Texas Children's Hospital before because of peanut allergy.
Okay, that's never funny. That's terrifying. Yeah.
No, she ate something.
I don't know.
They didn't have it labeled saying this could contain peanuts and tree nuts. And at the time, we knew she was allergic to peanuts and eggs. And so whenever she ate it, I mean, she reacted immediately. She was scratching and pulling at her ears and at her eyes and trying to clear her throat. By the time we made it 2 aisles towards the front, we got to call an ambulance. So we had ran and there was a supervisor there and they called an ambulance and it was not labeled that it was peanuts and tree nuts were even in there. So I got to jump in the ambulance with her and actually they told us just to give her some Benadryl and she would be fine. No, by the time we made it to the hospital, she puked all over in the ambulance. I'm telling you, if you want to see a doctor right away at an ER, get taken by ambulance.
Oh, we've had to, just real quick, did the EMT say don't just give him Benadryl?
It was the EMT, yes. Which we were like, what? And then when we made it to the hospital, they're like, no, because she had multiple organ things going together. She puked. She was pulling at her ears. She was trying to clear her throat, scratching her throat. And because of that, she should have gotten her EpiPen immediately. And, we had never done anything like that. So she said, okay, you want to see how it works? So then we sat there and watched her. And then we had to sit there for, I think it's 8 hours under observation after you get an EpiPen with the epinephrine. And then her asthma picked up when we were getting ready to go and she needed a nebulizer. So then they had to keep us longer.
Wow. Not quite the humor story I was looking for, but that's pretty tragic.
It was fine.
But this is the real life that you just don't, as a parent, you don't think about. Because I don't know if we talked about this on air, but my oldest son, we had no idea he was allergic to anything. Right. So one time I'm picking him up at school. He's at daycare. He was like, Dad, I'm hungry. And maybe 3-ish, something like that. And I toss him I think it was cashew, blueberry or something like that. Starts eating it. And I'm not kidding. 30 seconds later, he's like, Dad, I don't feel so good. And I'm like, what? And he starts projectile vomiting all over my car. And I'm like, holy crap. So I get him home. I knew he was having an allergic reaction, but I didn't know to what. So anyways, we start bathing him. He turns purple. I run him over. We were maybe 5 minutes from the emergency room. Take him in. Same thing. Afterwards, it was just so funny. I'm sure Abigail was the same way. He's like, Dad, let's go home. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like all traumatized. He's like, I feel great now. I feel great. Why do we have to stay? We didn't have to stay 8 hours. We had to stay, I think, 45 minutes under observation. Another hour, they gave him like water and ice and stuff like that just to make sure everything was going well, because he didn't have any organ, nothing like that. It was just, all upper respiratory. It is crazy. If you've never seen an EpiPen work, I mean, it is like a miracle. It is like a second. It's not like one of those things you're like, and you're like, dude, it's like, I mean, it is like,
it really is.
Holy cow, it's fast.
Yeah. Well, that epinephrine, even when I would have severe asthma attacks, I would get, like, if it was really, really bad when I was little, I would get a shot of epinephrine, which is what it is in that EpiPen.
Yes. And that's crazy. So I think we'll end on one more funny story. I'll try to end on a humorous one here. So this is Justin in college. So my very first week, I started out at University of San Diego. That's where I started at school. I went there because the ratio of male to female is 7-3 back then. I was like, well, it's a great school. It's in Linda Vista or Point Loma. Anyway, I can't remember what this. Anyway, it's on the top of the hill there, right near Mission, right over Mission Beach. And I'm walking across campus with a bunch of guys, and all of a sudden, I'm staring at a couple of girls that are going the other way, and next thing you know, I'm on my.
Absolutely.
And my knee is just like killing me. I mean, it's protruding blood. You can see the bone, and I'm on the ground. Like, I'm on the ground, and I pop back up like nothing happened, right? So these guys, I don't know anyone. I'm just meeting these guys, right? They're like, dude, what happened? I'm like, I don't know, but I'm trying to play it off like everything's fine, right? They're like, I've never seen anyone do that. And the girls across the way are totally laughing. What happened was there was a fire hydrant I didn't see. And I just walking full bore into it and hit the part that sticks out, the knob, and I just flipped over it. I walked back to my dorm room and I just remember bursting into tears and just like, oh God, and my legs swelled. I didn't go to a doctor, didn't do anything. I'm sure I fractured it somehow. You can see the bone. I probably needed stitches. I got a wicked scar from it now. So that was one dumb thing. And I guess the final thing, this is since we're talking about legs for a second here. I was on a cruise with my family when I was in college, and we went to somewhere in Guatemala, and we went to this Mayan pyramid thing. And my brother and I are very competitive. And back then we were both really at our.
I never would have even guessed that.
Oh, I'm a pacifist at heart. Not at all. Anyways, and so we're decided to race up this Mayan temple. And for those that have never been to a temple like that, it's maybe a few inches out, and it's steep as like, I mean, probably if you can go 90, it's probably 85 degrees. They just go straight up. We're running up it, and all of a sudden I slip down the side and go whoosh and take the whole front of my calf off. I mean, the whole front of my shin, sorry, in the middle of freaking Guatemala. So I'm like, oh God, I played off like it's no big deal. My mom and my dad are like, oh my God. And my brother's like, oh, everyone's vomiting. I'm like, be fine. So we get back to the boat. I clean it off. And my dad's like, you need stitches. I'm like, I don't need stitches. I'm going to be fine. And meanwhile, my dad's a doctor. I'm not paying any attention to him, right? I'm like, I'll be fine. I put a Band-Aid on it. We make it back to the States. I start pouring alcohol. I clean it, all this kind of stuff. And one day I did karate back then. I did this martial art called Tung Sudo. And we were going to a tournament. And I'm like, Steve, my leg is really, really hurting me. Can you take a look at it? And he's in medical school right at this point in time. He looks at it and goes, oh my God, is that your cut? I'm like, yeah. He's like, we have to perform emergency surgery right now right here in your living room because it's necrotic. And it had started turning gangrene. It was so infected. So he literally in my living room, okay, I had to basically avert my head with just basic tools you have in the house. He had to basically clean it full open, take all the dead tissue out, sew everything up in my living room.
Okay, wait. So your dad was a doctor, is a doctor, and this kid was in medical school. And you didn't believe your dad. Interesting. Okay.
We have a complicated
so you had that
relationship.
coming.
I did. I got to tell you, though, that was probably back in like 2000. I think Kelly and I were actually married. So it was probably like 2005, 2006. It was right after we got married. Last year, the scar finally went away. It's just like this little dot. It was about this big. And every year it got tinier and tinier. It's now like that big.
I will tell you, Justin, I have never had stitches.
Oh, man, I have so many.
I have never, well, mine is having 2 C-sections, but that doesn't count.
Oh, yes,
I have never broken a bone. I have never fractured anything. I've never sprained an ankle.
I'm speechless because I know in my lifetime I've broken 17 bones, fractured 12. I've sprained, I don't know how many times. So many things. In fact, one of the most painful injuries I ever got, I was trying out for the pre-races for the Olympics in like 92 or 93, something like that. I'm doing backstroke. That was my stroke. And so I'm counting my things. And this was a meter pool, and I didn't ever use meters. So most races, for those that don't know, are done in yards in the United States, not meters, but everything Olympic is in meters. So I was training at a meter pool, but I never paid attention at all. Right. It just never occurred to me. So I had my stroke count wrong. So I kept going and I flipped over. And as I came over, my feet were actually too close. And there's the gutter that goes around on some pools where it's like on the inside. It doesn't go over, but it's like on the inside. And my foot got caught in there and ripped the tendons off the top of my foot. And I'm sitting there and I'm ready to launch. And I push my foot and I launch out of there. And I completed, by the way, I finished swimming and I get down there and the adrenaline was so high. I'm like, I am in so much pain. And it finally starts wearing off. And I'm standing in the pool going like, yes. And I can't stand anymore. And I start sinking and I'm like, oh God, I'm in so much pain. They take me out. It's instantaneously black and blue on my top of my feet. Like, I mean, black and blue, swollen. Weirdly enough, I didn't have to get surgery. They were still lightly tethered together. So basically I wasn't allowed to swim for, I think, almost a year, if I remember right. I still laugh about it now, but it was a very tragic injury. And it was my mom to this day said it was one of the most gross things she ever saw. Because she's like, I'm going like this as a victory and I'm in the water. I'm high-fiving everyone. And all of a sudden I just start sinking in the water and I can't stand because I have nothing to stand on, right? Like the adrenaline's wearing off and I just keep keeling over. And I'm like, I'm afraid I'm going to drown because I can't, your feet are flopping. And so they get me out of the water and it just flops in the deck. And my mom's like, oh, she's like, oh my God, your foot just flopped. I'm like, oh, and then it all sinks in. And, you're just, the best part is though, I'll tell you right now, especially in high school when this happens, chicks are so sympathetic to injuries like that. Like, you can't believe the amount of sympathy I got for years after that. Oh, I just feel so bad for him. I'm like, oh, you have no idea how much it hurts. Didn't hurt at that point in time. But.
Of course you would say that.
Absolutely. So I think we talked about enough injuries today. Was this fun?
I think you had way more than me.
I'm not even probably halfway through. I'm just surprised you don't have any, especially growing up in the part of the country that you did. I mean, I watch Yellowstone. I understand that like you walk outside, you can fall and die. How you survived is amazing.
Yellowstone is a show, right? I mean, just saying. Based
on reality.
No.
You mean the Duttons aren't real?
We didn't live in Yellowstone either.
Well, so you have to realize on a map, when I was growing up, it was California and the East Coast and everything in between was basically uninhabitable. Until I moved to Texas and I realized, okay, people can live here. I knew there was Yellowstone. I figured the whole state was a national preserve, national park, and I'm wrong, apparently.
Yes. Well, I will tell you, when I lived overseas and we said Wyoming, they're like, huh? Y'all ride horses to school? No.
You guys have horse and buggy? Do you call your mom Mama and your dad
Mama?
Daddy and Mama? All right. Well, thank you, Kim. This was a great episode. And I want to say thank you for that story because I have such a giggles today. I cannot control myself. So thank you.
See, that's got to be it. That's probably like the worst thing that's really ever happened to me. Apart from like all my MS and stuff. But other than that, my husband's got the stories that he's got from broken bones and when he was a skateboarder. And I mean, it's pretty crazy. Or even recently, whenever him and TJ thought he could take Ted down and pin him to the ground, which didn't happen. But in the end, he ended up breaking a couple ribs I don't know what he did, but it was, oh my gosh, he's been in so much pain, but he's finally better now.
I've broken my ribs twice.
And I will tell you.
It's the most painful thing on earth. Yes.
That's what he says too. And even with that, he still couldn't take him down.
That's adrenaline and stubbornness, which is awesome. Now, I'll tell you real quick, when he recovers, because he's like 4 or 5 weeks into this thing, he'll start developing a cough afterwards. It's the weirdest thing. Like he'll say a word and be like, Kim, and I'll have to cough. It's so painful. And it's the dumbest healing. They don't ever tell you this thing, but like when you break a rib, it's incredibly painful and everything hurts, right? But then as you recover and you start feeling better, you develop a cough. Every time it's like a dry cough and you can't really talk. It is the weirdest, stupidest thing.
This isn't the first rib he has broken.
Okay, so you guys are used to it.
Multiple occasions. No, he did this whenever he was skateboarding and snowboarding. And yeah, like you should hear his stories. They're crazy.
Oh, we're going to have him on. So Kim, thank you for another great episode.
No, thank you, Justin.
High five to both of us for surviving all these craziness. And more importantly, have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
And that concludes today's episode of the Fitness
Manifesto. I know you guys enjoyed it.
And Kim, I want to say thank you to you and to our audience for making this podcast what it is.
Yes, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys.
And stay tuned for the next episode.